All right, so now we're going to move on to our program for today, Hush Buddies. I think many of us in this room probably wish we had this at some point. A little too late for this one, but Scott Hanson and Ed Danyo are co-founders. Scott, I think, originated with the idea. Ed helped him develop it, but he has twin boys, so had reason to be pondering this as a solution. So Scott, welcome. We look forward to hearing about it.
Thank you very much. Oh, I came with my own microphone. I can travel with it everywhere.
Excellent.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Scott Hanson. I am the inventor of Hush Buddy, a device that lovingly helps reduce bedtime meltdowns by toddlers and gets them to go to sleep quickly and quietly, usually just the first night or two. And gee, do you think there's a market for that? We also like that means that well-rested toddlers grow up to become adults who are physically and cognitively healthier. So there's more than just a paycheck for the parent who has a quieter night. In the meantime, though, I just want to begin by asking you all, you've got your jammies on, right? You've had your sip of water, you brushed your teeth, because it's bedtime, and you're 2 years old, going on 3. And like most 2-year-olds, you look forward to bedtime as a time that you can, screw with your parents. But this night seems a little different because tonight there's something glowing in your room that wasn't there before, and your father is holding a book that you've never seen before called The Hush Buddy Story. So you're all settled in. He begins to read. In a place very near at a time very soon, there live the Hush Buddies, who glow like the moon. In quiet they live with smiles all around, for their glow comes from silence and dims when there's sound. I'm not going to read the whole book to you. The point is that it creates in the child's mind the cause and effect that sound is bad for a hush buddy, that hush buddies glow as long as the room is quiet. Last time I bring my own microphone. Later on we introduced the character Whisper.
That's even better. Huh?
Even better, yeah. Maybe I should just hold both of them. We introduced the character Whisper. Whisper is the Hush Buddy character, the little face that is on the light. And we tell the child that Whisper has decided to come and stay with you because Whisper knows you can be quiet at night. Whisper's looking for a quiet place in the evening. And with that, your parent gives you a kiss goodnight. They leave the room. They turn off the lights. And if you decide you don't like that, and you want to go back to your old tricks, this is what happens. Mommy? Daddy? They may not be able to tell. It just dims. It doesn't go out entirely. It just dims. And kids, of course, want more light in their room, not less. And so there's positive reinforcement for positive behavior, and there's inducement to have a quiet bedtime. So you're thinking, well, that's wonderful. Does it actually work? I want to introduce you to Grayson, first child ever to try our big ugly prototype here, and also on the very first night he tried it.
How are you? Good night. For anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half, he'll kind of yell, cry. Mommy, mommy, mommy. You can listen to the last book. The Hush Buddies. And he loved the story. They work, but don't cry. They play, but don't shout. So they know any sound will put their mouth out. Hush Buddy, isn't my white? You talk like this. It was definitely an immediate difference. We have seen some really impressive results with our kids' sleeping habits. Now I feel like he had a better night's sleep, so he was waking up on his own happy.
So that is Hush Buddy and how it works. You can see the connection. The child connects with whisper, the child loves whisper, whisper loves quiet, so the child loves quiet. And it lovingly maximizes and leverages the child's powerful imagination. And you know how powerful that imagination could be if you have kids. So, what is our market? Well, parents who are tired of the racket at bedtime, right? Is there a market for that? Yeah, we calculate that there are about 10 million families who have kids who are 2, 3, and early 4-year-old range. That's the range that we're going for, the toddler set. We did a survey of 400 parents. 71% say that they struggle getting their child to sleep at night. 58%, without seeing that video, without actually seeing our prototype or product, just from the concept, said that they're likely to buy a product to help their child go to sleep. Okay. Really, though, the market is larger than that. It really, we think, is any parent who wants their child to be able to grow up to be a doctor or an astronaut or to live life to the fullest, because sleep science is showing us that toddler sleep is precious. During that time, the toddler's brain is being wired. Connections are being made at a time that it's the only time that happens. It's a golden window for brains to be built. By the time they get to be 6, it's not happening anymore. And kids who get enough sleep, 12 to 14 hours when they're toddlers, have less problem with focus later in life, have less behavior problems, and they're physically healthier too. A lower incidence of diabetes, a lower incidence of obesity, because it's thought that self-control is being wired during that time. So our plan, right now we are currently finalizing our product design. Like I said, we have our big ugly prototype here right now. We hope very soon to be able to show people what the actual finished product will be looking like. After that, we go to crowdfunding through Indiegogo to fund the startup production costs, molds, packaging. Pricing, we're going to price it at $99.95 with a $40 discount for early orders, so $60. Pretty much anything you buy for a child's room these days is $60. That's pretty much what everything is for child's room these days. And then we'll be able to reduce that discount and kind of plumb where the ceiling is for that price. We're going to begin marketing through social media and through mom blogs, using videos like you just saw, using story selling. We think that this is a product that does real well with story selling. And our intention is to sell online, at least first. Perhaps we'll look at retail later on. If we don't have to, we won't. Here's our team. Myself, I'm a former TV reporter and video producer, so the whole story selling, video marketing aspect makes a lot of sense, resonates with us. And also Ed Danyo, who was pointed out, he's in the back. I'll say hi to Ed a little bit later on. Ed is a father of 2, including one who had, I think we can say, a fairly severe sleep disorder growing up. We lead with that because that's what powers Ed in this project, is the impact that this is going to have on families and kids. We've both lived these difficulties. As a plus, Ed has an MBA and also an electrical engineering background. So here are our challenges. While we are 2 smart people, we've never taken a product to market before. You don't know what you don't know. Is there something that we have forgotten about that can come back and bite us later? An expensive mistake that we don't know that we're making. That's one challenge. Another is building our network with competent and experienced partners. We found plenty of people who want to be a part of this project. They don't necessarily have anything to contribute to the project is the problem. So we want to find people who are very who are going to be rock solid partners as we move ahead in the future. So here's our ask from you today. We would like to know what ideas you have for best practices that can help us to maximize our crowdfunding campaign. We would also like to know if you have any connections with a potential accelerator program that would shorten our time to market. Also, reliable manufacturing partners. We're looking for people in the blow mold, injection molding space, as well as printed circuit boards. And then finally, feedback on our message. Does this resonate with you? Are you going to leave here today and go to some parent and say, little Ashton is keeping you up at night. You really need to check this out. You need to buy one of these when it comes out. Or are you going to see some business associate later and say, these 2 guys I met this morning, man, are they going to be rich 2 years from now? So that is our ask, excuse me, of the room today. With that, I thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
do we have, oh, look at that.
Right.
All right.
Let's go with the people who are smiling with their hands up first.
So what we'll do is I will point out to you who we're going to go in what order, and then so if you raise your hand and I point to you, I know where you are in the list, and we'll go. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, right down the row.
How much data do you have behind your research? And I guess, has it just been that one boy that's used it, or?
No, we have tested currently, and we're still testing with families now. We've tested with 5 families, 6 kids, and a variety. I mean, we did not go easy with ourselves on this testing. We've had 2 kids who were moved into a room and they just stayed up all night talking. And parents brought this in. She texted me the next morning and she said, I don't know what time they went to sleep because it's quiet. I don't want to open the door. And the little boy would go get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and go back to his room. Hadn't done that before. We had a 3.5-year-old. I mean, I invented this thing. I didn't even think it would work for him because it was a severe case. A 3.5-year-old who every night of his life had been rocked to sleep. It would take him 2 hours. Rock him to sleep, lay him down, and sort of sneak out of the room. And the parents were just, we can't do this. This isn't sustainable. They tested it for 1 week. By the end of the week, reading the story, turning off the light, leaving. And he would go and say bye to Whisper before he went to preschool, so that connection, was there. Every one of those parents reported results in 1 or 2 nights. Everyone regarded it as very effective. And like I said, we're still testing. In fact, one of the problems that we have is that the prototype is still in demand among those families. They're kind of sharing it because when we take the prototype away, eventually a child goes back to their old tricks again. So can we get Whisper back is what they ask. Who was next? Yes.
It looks like it could definitely take off and penetrate that market pretty deeply. But what I see, and I'm sure you probably thought about this, they grow out of it. And it'll, of course, if they have siblings that come along afterwards, it'll be used for that. But eventually, it's not going to be in the house anymore. They're going to sell it at a garage sale for an extreme discount, and these things will be passed down, family to family. What happens to your revenue stream?
Have you ever tried to sell your child's favorite teddy bear? And that's what's going to happen. I mean, this is a beloved character. They love Whisper, and the story is what is the magical part of that. And we look at this device. But yeah, you're right. After 5, 6 years old, there's a nightlight setting on it. It just becomes a nightlight at that point. But it's a nightlight that is just a friend of theirs, and we think that connection is going to make it be something that they're just not going to have the heart to discard or sell on eBay.
I'm going to comment on your 4th question regarding the feedback and whether it resonates or not.
Yes.
I think it's a very simplistic idea. One of those ideas where you think, God damn it, why didn't I? And I have 2 kids too. They're past this age now.
Yeah.
But I can certainly see the use to this, and I think you guys will be rich in 2 years.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. I think your price point is also, I'm sure you must have done some market research with that. And it's a great idea to start with a discount and then reach your ceiling. And I think even at $99, it's a fairly good price point.
Oh,
and
good.
Parents should be more than happy if it saves them a couple of hours every night. It's worth it.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And let me raise a point about the pricing, because that was some of the research that we did. What was interesting is when we asked parents just sort of generically, here's the idea, what's the value to you? The $60 range would come in. The parents who are our test families who lived with this and used it, $80, $100, $120. They saw what it did to their life in just a week. And so it was interesting to us that, when we're able to tell that story and put it in front of, potential customers and they see what it'll mean to their life, yeah, we're hoping that'll help us to be able to increase that price point. So. Yes.
So 2 questions. Do you have a primary competitor? And then also, have you thought, I know you said that you just want to do it online. Have you thought about marketing to the airlines and having a portable Whisper for the kids who cry throughout the whole Why?
No, oh, that's interesting. No, that's a great idea. I like that. We've thought about hospitals because, as kids come home from the hospital, it's so disruptive to get them, that hospitals might send it home in their send home package. But the airlines, that's a very good idea. Thank you. Can we use that? All right, great.
And I'm crowdfund right on the plane.
Exactly. We'll just walk down the aisle. Forget peanuts. Here we go. What was your first question was, or your first one? Primary competitor, great question. Honestly, there's nothing like this that does behavior modification at bedtime. There isn't. There are comforters, there are soothers out there, all right? So they project stars on the ceiling and they'll play music. From a sleep science standpoint, not good. First of all, most of them use a blue LED light, which inhibits, most people in this room probably know, it inhibits melatonin, which is a sleep hormone. That's why your phone changes to amber at night. Then they put stars on the ceiling. Well, that's stimulative. And then because it's battery operated, it goes off after 15 minutes, 30 minutes. So the child wakes up in the middle of the night, something's different. It's missing. That's poor. You need consistency for a child to be able to sleep through the night, just go back to sleep when they wake up. So from that standpoint, we don't have a competitor. The closest would be there are some alarm clocks that work in the morning. The idea is that they change color and let the child know it's okay to get out of bed. Red, too early, don't get out of bed. Okay, it's green, now you can get out of bed. Some of our test families have used that because they used everything. And this is the only thing that had worked for some of them. And they found that there was no connection with that, like there is with Whisper because of the story. So the kid, it's just a clock, what do I care? And they didn't have a lot of success with it. So that's as close as we come to a competitor.
Right up here.
Oh, right.
First of all, 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
The first is, have you patented the idea already? And the second question, I see great opportunity here for alliance with or marketing partnerships with, for example, Disney, like using their characters with the same idea. Have you thought about it?
Yes.
And are you already on the road to that?
No, and because we've thought about it, so kind of a surprising answer to that one. The first question was about patent protection. Yes, we've applied for a patent, and really as fast as the patent office seems to be moving lately, it may not be long before we have that. We're through our first office action. The second question then is if we've approached a company like Disney or maybe Nickelodeon or some other like that to be able to use their characters. Here's the thing. Whisper is a challenging product, a surprisingly challenging product, because Whisper needs to be a tool, not a toy. Because at bedtime, you don't want anything like, oh, cool, I'm left alone in the room with this toy. And a lot of the characters that are out there are connoted with, they think fun, they think playtime. Whisper, so we're not going to make plush toys to play with this character because we don't want them to think of playtime when they think of Whisper. There are other add-on revenues that we can have. Follow-on books, for example, books that tell different stories, books that address different sleep issues that families might have, kind of like the prescription, if I have a problem with my child coming into my room in the middle of the night, here's a story that addresses that. But in terms of some of these established characters, it works against the science. We have to be true to ourselves. And we're about, the first question we always ask when we're asked to make a decision is, does this help the child get to sleep quicker or not? If the answer is no, then we don't do it. Everything we do is about getting them to sleep faster.
Okay, 2 questions.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Marpac in Wilmington? They're the originator of the sound machine. They might have some manufacturing.
Yes, like the white noise machine?
Yeah.
Yes, we've heard of them. Yeah.
Have you talked to them?
No, not yet. I'll defer to Ed on that because I know that I think that was one of the contacts that he had sent to me, and we investigated as a possible production partner.
Okay. Yeah. The second question is there's a company in Charlotte called Avensis that does the accelerator piece that you're looking for. So I can give you his contact information after the event.
Thank you. Yeah, we look forward to that. Thank you very much. I've heard that this is a great group for hooking you up with asks, so we did a whole slide of asks.
Hi, I had 3 questions originally, but then 2 of the questions got asked. Just the last one, I'm just curious. I have 3 children, by the way. The story itself, how confident you are that the story is actually attractive to the kids?
Oh man, the parents rave about the story and the kids ask for it. We tell them the first week you're using it, read the story every night. Read the story every night to reinforce that. And then, like I said, this has been passed around to the test families. And so we've asked, now that you've had exposure to this for, you're a month on, and parents still ask for it 2 or 3 times a week. It's interesting that the idea of the story came from, we've worked with Dr. Craig Canapari, who's the head of the Pediatric Sleep Center at Yale. And originally, we wanted the parent to be able to introduce a hush buddy, and you gotta be quiet or they won't look. And it was his idea, like, you should put that in a storybook at bedtime. Yes, of course. That's the power of, anybody have Elf on the Shelf? Or did you go through Elf on the Shelf? If you got kids that age, Elf on the Shelf comes with a storybook. Exactly, you link to the narrative. And so, our feedback on the story has been flawless on Hanson. That's a really good question. Yes.
So you cited, looked like a few headlines regarding the sleep statistics. Do you have any actual metrics that you can point to? This has a 50% reduction in time to bed. And then have you considered it, because you just mentioned that you were partnering with sounds like fairly prestigious medical professional. Have you considered partnering with local doctors who specialize in any sort of sleep treatments?
Yes, down the road. Our research shows that the number one thing that potential buyers, our customers want to hear from are other parents. The parents is number one. Number 2 is online reviews, which is really kind of the same thing, just in a different form. Number 3, Ed, help me out. I forget number 3.
Sleep studies.
Sleep studies, yes. Like clinical, like we were talking about the results we've had from our testing. And number 4 was doctors. That kind of surprised me. I thought that'd be higher. So they're just a 4th influencer. But yes, we've talked about as we get to market, being able to maximize a network of pediatricians and that type of thing, so that they can talk to their parents and their clients about that. Yeah.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
So regarding the metrics on sleep from a study perspective, right? So us doing our own sleep studies are incredibly expensive and takes years to do. We can tell you is we've reviewed over 52 different studies, and in those sleep studies they identified 5 of the most effective methods for children to sleep. The first one is the extinction method, which basically means you just let them cry it out. No one is a real big fan of that, even though it is the most effective.
Called the extinction method?
It's the most unfortunately named.
It really is. It really is. It's
extinction.
It's called the suffocation method.
No, remember, we're talking about a clinical setting here, right? So
not marketers.
So, we're not pulling any punches, right? It's basically the extinction method is, your child starts crying, you go, hey, good luck with that, boom, you're out, right?
Nobody can do that. Parents can't do that.
Parents can't do that. There's a perception that psychologically that's impactful to the children. So we don't support that method. But 3 of the methods that were in those combined studies. One of them is graduated extinction. So you'll notice the light goes off for a short period of time and then comes back on. That's graduated extinction, where that time off gets a little bit longer every time. So that's number 1. The second one is parental routines. And the third one is positive routines and parental education. So we hit 3 of the top 5 methods of sleep study that have an 86% efficacy result in getting a child to sleep when used properly and over time. So the big thing is consistency.
If the parent did nothing more than read our parent instructions, they would see improvement. If they didn't even have this in their room, because what's in the parent instructions is established like 20 years of sleep science, put in a very approachable and entertaining way in the parent's guide, and then this just reinforces it.
Have you thought about doing the guides in multiple languages?
Yes. They're going to be both the children's book and the guide will be in 2 languages. So you'll be able to read the Hush Buddy story. If you turn it over, it's in Spanish.
Fantastic. The actual unit, who designed it and who built it? And then my follow-up on that would be, when you're looking for a manufacturer, I would really try to paint a broad stroke. I wouldn't try to just narrow it down one or two, because I think you're going to probably want to get a lot of units out there, considering the demand. And you got to look at your costs. You got to look at the quality. And then second question would be, once you get a lot of demand on that, do you have a structure in place for your company? Like people are going to work phones or work different things as far as questions about the unit or about how things, general operations.
Yes.
Or is it just right now? It's just you and
yeah. So right now it is. Yeah, and we're friendly. People can talk to us. But right now, and so the first question first. A gentleman in Michigan named Reese Gallagher built this, and again, it was just the base. That's all we needed him to build because we wanted to test that, and it was just a prototype. Our research showed don't worry about making it pretty, don't worry about making it look like the finished product because you're going to change all sorts of stuff on it. Boy, was that true? That was great advice, and so he did an excellent job of following what we needed this to do. Some last-minute research from Dr. Craig Canapari told us we need a character on top of it quick. And so in a weekend, I wrote that book and came up with this face, and what turned out interesting is that the moms, we started researching other faces and other characters, and the moms who tested this came back and said, no, we like Whisper. We like, and wow, we hit it right the first time. We couldn't believe it. So that's where this came from. Your second question about customer support, basically, we hope to address as much of that as possible, of course, through FAQs on our website. And video FAQs as well from moms. We've been careful to go talk to our test moms on video afterward. And one of the questions we ask them is, if somebody is using this and not being successful, what do you want to say to them? And the number one thing they say is, follow the directions. If you follow the directions, you'll be successful. What's interesting, this is another challenge that could be added there. One of the problems that can affect a child in going to sleep, it's called limit-setting sleep disorder. Anybody ever heard of that? Limit-setting sleep disorder is on the parent. And I did this because you get in this mindset of, I want this child to sleep. And if I tell them no, and if I challenge them at bedtime, they're going to get upset, and that's the opposite of sleep. So you just kind of give in. And limit-setting sleep disorder is like you say, well, I'm going to read 2 stories tonight, and you read 7. That type of thing. The problem is, if you're one of those parents, you're not going to be inclined to follow the directions as well. So we set them up like, just give it a week. Just give it a week of doing what's in this book, and you'll find success. But we've had discussions about follow-on, phone banks and things like that. We need to have customer support. We want this to be a quality product. We want it to be a safe product, and we want it to be something that is supported by a whole network of past users. Yes.
I actually have one question.
Okay. One question, one suggestion.
So in your supply chain, when you seek out this injection mold company, are you planning on having them just make the product, or are you going to have them make it just in time as orders come in and then ship directly to clients, or are you going to run the warehouse distribution yourself? That's my one question. And then my comment is, have you started to consider perhaps, like I have a friend actually who's getting into this business where it's pop-up co-work and shelf space at the mall, where he's actually taking over entire Sports Authority spaces when they went bankrupt.
Wow.
And putting in all sorts of consumer product companies that will literally go on tour around the country and have stuff on shelves where it's rentable almost by the day.
Yeah.
Or the week, or so you'll be able to then say, hey, listen, at this location, this location, and you don't have to commit to the normal retail strategy, so you can complement whatever online marketing you're doing with that. And then the other benefit I see of that is that you may not get purchased by your target, your original target. These are going to be awesome gifts.
Oh, grandparents.
Grandparents.
Oh, yeah. Because they're buying it not just for their child and their grandchild, really. Yeah.
So I think, oh, wow, this is great. I came here to buy that, $2,000 dress. I'm going to buy this $100 item.
Yeah.
Because, really love this.
And the thing I like about the retail idea that you mentioned, it seems like that's a great place to sort of audition how you're going to do in the retail space without a huge commitment. You know, so that's great if you don't mind sharing that information with us. And your first question about the supply chain and if this is kind of a, you know, initially we're doing you know, pre-orders and pre-sales, so you know, through the crowdfunding. So yes, as we get those orders in blocks of like 2,000, 5,000, you know, you have to work within reason there. But I'll let Ed speak a little bit more about how we intend to do that, because we have this plan to be able to double our production capacity in stages. So I'll let Ed speak to that a little bit if he has a microphone that doesn't sound like a cell phone going through a tunnel.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you very much. Yeah, regarding the supply chain, it really, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't want to overproduce and then have a bunch of stuff that's sitting there. So through our crowdfunding, we're going to do two things through crowdfunding. One is proof of manufacturability and being able to actually distribute, right? So that's in a limited scale and in a way that we can, you know, hopefully limit our failures. That we're going to sort of test our supply chain and our manufacturing. One of the other things we're doing is trying to reduce the number of partners that we have in place as well. So you know, if we can find if we can find a printed circuit board manufacturer that can also do the assembly, where we can ship everything to one location, and then from that one location distribute. That's really what our strategy is. We want to try to minimize how many different parts we're shuffling between places and how many different vendors are involved in doing that. So that's part of our strategy. And if we're successful in the crowdfunding event, that sets us up for a pre-sale. And we're going to limit the number in pre-sale because we want to try to generate some scarcity, I guess, so that we can maximize, you know, we can get for them, and then if we do that, we should be able to double our production capacity every 10 to 12 weeks if we follow that. And that way we're not overproducing beyond what the actual demand is as well.
I should mention too, when we put out the ask for, you know, production partners, we are dedicated to producing this domestically, and we know we're going to make less money doing it, but it's because there's going to be somebody in a neighboring state or wherever that is able to buy birthday presents and groceries and pay their rent with the paycheck that they get making Hush Buddies. And that's just something that's important to us. So we're dedicated to doing that. The philosophy on that is we want everyone who touches Hush Buddy to have their life improved, from the child to the parent to the people who make it too. So I forgot to put that in as an asterisk to the ask about production partners.
Good. 2 final questions and that's it.
Yeah, we've got a time limit, but will you
All right.
guys be available afterwards?
Absolutely, there's free coffee. We're going nowhere.
All right, very good.
Okay, we'll be right over there.
Hey there. So I grew up in an urban environment, and I'm wondering, like, you know, with garbage trucks backing up and sirens going by, and so this is more of a comment than a question, really. I'm wondering about the sensitivity of whatever device is listening there, and whether I, as a 2-year-old in New York City, would ever have gotten to sleep.
Yes, an astute question, because originally we had one of the dials here is sensitivity, and we've since done away with that. It's handled by software. When you first start up the device, we tell people turn on everything that's in the room that'll be on at night. Ceiling fan, it's amazing the amount of sound that comes out of a ceiling fan. White noise machines, if you have a radio playing, whatever, turn it all on. If you're under the flight path, you know, let there be a plane going over, and then turn on the device. It listens for 3 seconds and it sets a baseline. This is it. And then a certain amount over that is where it triggers. It was where it triggers the dimming. So yeah, that's a very good question. I'm sorry.
Let me begin by saying, you don't hear this often from me, I really liked your presentation, and I'm going to tell you why.
All right.
You did something very interesting that I think a lot of people could learn from. You actually put the audience in the mindset of the end user, which very few people do. And when you said, imagine that you're a 2-year-old, whatever it is, people's minds changed. And you really did something very interesting. So from now on, when you do presentations, it's my recommendation that you continue doing something like that. It's really cool. More people should do that. So that's that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can thank me.
And also, what's interesting is, from my perspective, the moment I say that, the whole room begins to smile. You guys do. You go from, I'm a business person, yeah, I'm back home in the bed, yeah, it's nighttime, yeah.
Despite not time for this, I wish the lights could get lower because I didn't really get a chance to see it.
Oh, okay.
By the time you mentioned it, I write about design psychology, and I was wondering why you made the decision to make it a variation of yellow? And if there was a particular reason for that?
That's the amber color. That's the amber light. I mean, it's going to be, amber for the melatonin, production, right?
Okay.
So it doesn't restrict that.
Two more things that may or may not be helpful. I watched a video, and it's 1 minute and 40 seconds long, and 18 seconds of it actually show the product, at least in color. So
Yeah.
get out there and show some video and show this.
We're waiting to get the final design.
Okay.
We want to be able to show what it's actually going to look like. Yes.
And since nobody's spoken about crowdfunding yet, I don't know how much you've looked into that. My only recommendation is nobody wants to be the first person in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody. And typically, studies have shown that if and when you do crowdfunding, you should already, and this is just between the two of us, have already a good portion of the money in place.
Yep.
Because people will be like, oh, wow, cool, they already have $8,000 or whatever it is, I get to see it.
Right.
Nobody wants to be the first person to smack down the 80 smackaroos.
Yep.
No way.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll point out this to back that up too. The video that we showed, a variation of that, we put out on Facebook. We asked 100 friends who were kind of in the mom network, that they would know moms, to share it on their feed. A variation of that video appeared on 900,000 Facebook feeds and was viewed 300,000 times. And we had a pre-sale button, just pre-register. Just give us your email address so we can let you know when we're ready to light this candle. And we have like more than 600 people who signed up and said, yeah, I'm ready to go with that. So we kind of got that as a base to go. But to your point, yes, we're aware that the pump needs to be kind of primed ahead of time. That's real good feedback. Thank you.
All right, Scott, thank you very much.
Good to meet you all.
Appreciate it.
Before we disperse, I was remiss when I introduced our guest today. I wanted to give a special shout out to Ricardo Schleske in the back. Thank you very, very much. Another community member who identified Hush Buddy and referred him our way. So thank you again, Ricardo. Appreciate it very much. So you can all, as an example, be our eyes and ears in the community as we all network within different organizations to pull in great presenters. So thank you.
Okay, just a couple things we have.